So here's a question. Do women in the United States make less money than men for doing the exact same work? On NBC's Meet the Press yesterday, the Republican strategist and CNN contributor Alex Castellanos answered no, and that sparked a very passionate debate with Rachel Maddow of MSNBC. We asked Lisa Sylvester to do a fact check for us. Lisa is here. Lisa, who's right?
Well, this is a fascinating subject, Wolf, and we have been looking into this. We reached out, by the way, to Alex Castellanos, but he was not available for comment. The question, is there an earnings gap between men and women? And the answer, according to the Census Bureau, is yes. As an adjunct professor for 5 years, Lisa Matz says she often saw on college campuses male professors being paid a lot more than their female colleagues.
There's definitely a gap between men and women. There's a gap between who gets tenure and who doesn't. There's a gap between who gets promoted and who doesn't.
Now Matz is an advocate for paying men and women equal salaries. She works with the American Association for University Women. She says full-time working women make 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. It's a common statistic, one now being challenged by CNN contributor Alex Castellanos, who got into a verbal match with MSNBC's Rachel Maddow.
Women in this country still make 77 cents on the dollar for what men make. So if women don't make less than men?
Actually, if you start looking at the numbers, Rachel, there are lots of reasons for that.
Wait. Well, don't tell me the reasons are. Do women make less than men for doing the same work?
No, because...
Wow.
Well, for example, men work an average of 44 hours a week. Women work 41 hours a week. Men go into professions like engineering, science, and math that earn more. Women want more flexible professions.
Listen, this is not a math is hard.
No. Yes, it is.
Castellanos makes 2 points, that men make more because they work more, and they go into professions that pay higher salaries. But data directly from the Census Bureau shows there is a pay gap, and it's real. Quote, in 2010, the earnings of women who worked full-time year-round were 77% of that for men working full-time year-round, not statistically different from the 2009 ratio, end quote. Lisa Matz says the study takes into account factors like hours worked.
The studies we're talking about here control for those things. They do a very sophisticated regression analysis, and they say, okay, let's control for those reasonable reasons, and then beyond that, figure out what the gap is. So the gap shrinks. It's not as high as 77%, that average median gap, but it's still there. And that's the problem, because it's unexplained. We can't say it's because that they work less hours or it's because they supervise fewer people.
And I'm not convinced that it is.
Castellanos' arguments echo comments made by Kay Heimowitz, a fellow with the Manhattan Institute. She wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that women earn less because they work fewer hours. But Heimowitz argues one reason is that's because women are more likely to opt to work part-time, earning less than men who are less likely to agree to work part-time.
It sounds like you assume that, of course, everybody would want to work as much, full-time, and they don't necessarily. They feel equally tied, many women do, to their children, to their home, and want more time there.
So the bottom line, is there a gender gap in pay? Well, the answer is yes. That's 70 cents on the dollar difference between men and women's earnings. That comes directly from the Census Bureau. Now, it refers to full-time workers, but it is also true that many women choose to scale back hours, more so than men, women choosing to work part-time, and that's also reflected in the earnings, Wolf.
And so the bottom line, though, if men and women have the exact same job, do women still only earn 77 cents on the dollar if they're working the same amount of hours, have the exact same job in the exact same field?
There is definitely a gap. It is, if you're looking at, but there are all kinds of other control factors. You know, what college somebody went to, what region of the country, if you're talking salaried workers versus part-time workers. The average for full-time workers, the difference in pay is 77 cents on the dollar. Now, as you go on, as you control for other factors, even if you control for everything you could possibly imagine, all those things, the college, the hours worked, men still make more than women. That gap narrows. It's about 5 cents of a difference, but it still is there. It's still real, and the truth is men make more than women.
Lisa, thanks for the fact check. Did a good job. Thank you. President Obama going after Mitt Romney as the anniversary of Osama bin Laden's death approaches. Is it a cheap shot, as the Romney campaign is now claiming, or legitimate? And never mind all the things he said back in 2008. Now the former President Bill Clinton is campaigning. He's campaigning pretty hard for President Obama.
For giving us this